the job, but people who know what it means to have an ill enterprise fund, and also what it means to not have a healthy general fund, and how to look for resources to fill both and to get things done for this city. Relationships are important. I have great relationships with the planning director, the chiefs, fire chief, the police chief, and also other personnel within the city. And I know how to get things done. And I think that I am very prepared for this role, and I am ready to fulfill this mandate of working out, addressing crime, abandoned properties, education, our infrastructure and water system, and we just got to get it done. And I'm ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you stayed right on task too, Mr. Grizzell. That says a lot. Okay.
That's what teachers do.
All right, next, do we have Mr. Eddie Fireman James? Okay, I don't think he's on with us. Mr. Malcolm Dwight May. I see you on, Mr. May. Can you hear us? He was having some audio difficulties getting his phone connected, so we'll come back to him. Ms. Karen Gail Porter.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with your audience. My name is Karen Gail Porter. I am your candidate for Ward 4 for City Council for this year on April the 6th. I hope to receive your vote. Who am I? I am a daughter, sister, aunt. I am a resident of Westside community where I grew up. I bought a house on the same street that I grew up on. I lived 2 houses down from my mother. I came back to subdivision number 2 because I felt as though it's a great place to live. It's one of those shines on the jewels that is in the crown of Jackson, Mississippi. I believe that I am prepared as well to lead this group of people in Ward 4 to greater heights. One of the reasons why I'm running, and just to be candid, in my prayer life, I walk closely with God, and this is one of the mandates He's placed on my life. And I am doing it to the best of my ability, hearing clearly from Him, putting everything before Him. And I know that one of the things that we have done is taking God out of everything, every decision that we've made when it deals with the parts of Ward 4 or the city that we need to address as a whole. So again, my name is Karen Porter. I am your candidate for Ward 4 City Council for the great city of Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Porter. And the next candidate is McKay Flechette Smith. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me as well. My name is McKay Flechette Smith. I am the daughter of Willie, the late Willie Smith, and the current Mary Smith. I have a wonderful son by the name of Zacchaeus. I'm a graduate of Jackson State with 25 years of education experience, and I believe the duty of the city council person is a servant. And with that being as a servant, I have been an active servant in the community for many years. I've orchestrated and been the spearhead of so many different community-involved programs, such as hurricane relief projects for Sandy, Harvey, and Katrina. I'm a certified CPA. I've hosted many Larry Besson Hospital fundraisers. I'm the founder of Jackson's first adult kickball league, where we're known in the city for community involvement. We do community projects, Horses for Handicap, American Cancer Society. Every year we've always done prior to COVID, door-to-door voter registration, because right now voter registration is down at its all-time high. I'm also there, even though those are entities, they are efforts. And with that said, in order to be an effective community servant and be an effective council person, you have to be in tie with your community. I have a 5-branch platform that I'm running on. Public safety is one of those things, economic development, and of course, education. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I am McKay Plachette Smith, councilperson, candidate for councilperson for Ward 5.
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. And Mr. Larry Maurice Wilson, welcome. Mr. Wilson, I think if you take your, unmute yourself, okay.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we hear you now.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you guys. It's definitely an honor to run for this office and an honor to be a part of you guys' show. As you said, my name is Larry Maurice Wilson, and I am a lifelong resident of Jackson. I'll start off by letting you know I'm a father, or my wife and I are parents to 6. I think I'm the only candidate that has children both in the Jackson Public Schools District and also my oldest is a student at Jackson State. One of the most important functions of the councilman, I think, is approving the mayor's appointees on our local school district school board. So having children in the school district, obviously I have a vested interest to make sure that we have the most qualified, the most credible people leading our school district. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. Crystal and I met at Jim Hill High School, and we've been married since 2007. And we actually purchased our home in South Jackson back in 2005. So we've been in South Jackson as homeowners for almost 16 years, be 16 years in May. I think I'm also the only candidate that was born and raised on one end of Ward 4, being born and raised in the Queens subdivision, which most of the Queens is in Ward 4, and then also being a homeowner on the other end of Ward 4. Professionally, I have been a investment advisor with Voya Financial Advisors, and I've been employed with them since 2008. Another contrast that you could look at is that I'm the only candidate that manages other people's money right now. Obviously, the city council manages the money for the city of Jackson, and I look to bring those that same skill set to the city council as well. Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to having a chance to speak later today.
Well, thanks all the candidates that are joining us tonight and those who have attempted to come on but are having some technical issues at this point. And if you still can come on and get your issues resolved, we'll be glad to have you. So thank you all for joining us tonight and being part of Women for Progress Radio Network. And now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Ms. Regina Quinn, who has a few questions for our candidates.
Thank you, Willie. And I just want to say to the candidates, again, thank you, sir, so very much for availing yourself to this process. I've run for office a couple of times, and I know it's difficult. It's a labor of love for both you and your families, and I applaud you, and I thank you so very much for stepping out and taking on this challenge. I want to ask each of you the question about should you be into this office, would you like to be appointed to and why? And just to refresh your memory about the city council, the committees that are available, then those are Finance Committee, Planning, Economic Development, Education, Government Operations, Legislative, Rules, Internal Audit, and Water Operations.
Regina, will you ask that question again? I think when you there was a little interruption in your doing your question on the internet. Will you repeat that question, please?
Certainly. Should you be elected to serve as Ward 4 City Council person, which City Council committee would you like to be appointed to, and let us know why? Those committees are Finance, Planning, Economic Development, Education, Government Operations, Legislative, Rules, Internal Audit, and Water Billing. So I believe we start with Jackie Amos.
Okay, so yeah, that's really like it's you want me to choose. So
just choose whichever is important to you and why.
So I'm going to, right now, I'm going to say economic development because obviously there are others, but I'm going to say economic development because, I'm certain that in order for us to develop and grow our economy, there are layers to that, right? And so I want to be able to be in line with each one of those layers because you have to make sure that crime is better, that crime, is cleaned up. We have to make sure that that we have housing for people to come in and live at different levels. And then working with the different companies to bring jobs, to bring other businesses to our city, to our ward, actually. And we have a lot of land. We have a lot to work with. And so that's important because in order for us to have a healthy life, people need to be able to have good paying jobs, right? Good paying jobs, housing, so on and so forth. So economic development, I would say, and then there are others that fall under that. But I think that they all really and truly, the ones that I actually jotted down, they coincide. So I would be able to work each one of them with the knowledge of being able to use them and loop them in to help us grow.
Okay, thank you. I believe Mr. Grizzell is next, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want to stretch myself thin, but finance, I have a bachelor's degree in finance, an MBA, and a doctorate in management. And one thing I am is financially savvy. We have finance, planning, education, and water. You can't invite new companies or any guests into your house until your house is clean. You have to have your business straight before you can bring anybody else in. I served on the planning commission, and that's where you actually work to keep your community sustainable. That's where your codes are, your ordinances, your enforcement. And then education. I am an educator. I have a 4A license. I know what's necessary to put good people on that school board because they are the ones who make a decision that actually impact what the superintendent does. And then, of course, water. We need to build this enterprise fund. The enterprise fund is what helps to repair our water and sewer line. Plus, we need to understand what is there, what's necessary to go to the county, then to the state, and then to the federal government to get the support that we need to repair our water and sewer infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Porter.
Well, Brian took all of them, so okay. No, one of the things that I know that I would want to do, I thought we had to just pick one, so that's
you're not.
I did too. Okay, I thought we just choose one. Okay.
So I'm leaning towards, of course, economic development. I have several ideas for the city, but we'll start first in Ward 4 because that's our home. In order to get things established here, I have a 4-point plan in order to get us on track. Not saying we're that far off. It's just community has separated. So one of the things is I would focus on economic development. Love would be to be on that particular committee in order to bring businesses in, but also create businesses at home. Not necessarily bringing people in, but giving everybody an opportunity who wants to be a business owner, wants to start their business, to be able to do it in their own backyard instead of going outside of Ward 4 or outside of Jackson. So just to pick one, it would be economic development.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
So I would choose the Finance Committee because I've already started looking at the budget. There is a lot of contractual money that's being spent that I think that we could, as a city, redirect and go from contractual services to employing additional people within our city. So I would like to be on the Finance Committee for that. The Planning Committee, I would also like to be on that because I feel that we need to start looking at different avenues to making our city grow. Right now, the way that we are planning different things and we are orchestrating plans, but we're not executing plans, and we need to move forward. We can start executing plans through our planning committee. Economic development, I think that we need to start increasing the small businesses through the development of matching grants and increasing those grants and giving those small businesses opportunities to grow as a business. And then education, I also feel that with education, we have to change the narrative. A lot of our students, as well as our community, we have a narrative of Jackson Public Schools being a failing school. We need to change that narrative by making sure that we have quality people that are appointed to the school board, but of course, a quality person appointed by the mayor. For so many years, we've had people that didn't have any type of educational background, but yet they were appointed to the school board, and they didn't have any knowledge base when it came to education. So the finance committee, planning, economic development, and education are the ones that I've looked into and that I would want to be a part of.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson.
I think I would go with both the education and maybe the legislative committees. Obviously, with the education committee, I think I'm the only candidate that has visited every school in Jackson Public Schools over the last 2 to 3 years. And I'm visiting every school almost every 2 to 3 years as I service Jackson Public Schools, with it being one of the main accounts with the business with financial services and retirement. So I have a firsthand knowledge of what's going on in our schools, the primary issues that our teachers and students are facing. I think that the people that get appointed to the school board need to have a vested interest in our school district. So yeah, that would be one. With legislative, the district attorney came out this past weekend highlighting some of the issues with our court system here in Hinds County. I think that our city council is going to have to work with both our county and our state partners with helping with the backlog with cases in Hinds County. I don't know if you guys are aware that the lieutenant governor just recently allocated money from the CARES Act, so where we will have 3 additional judges that are set to begin in July to help manage this backlog. So those 3 additional judges to go with the 4 that we currently have in circuit court, that should definitely help alleviate that backlog that we currently see. So there are a number of things that I could go on about, but I think education and legislative would probably be the areas I could come in and hit the ground running from day one.
Thank you for that. And since we started with Ms. Amos first on the last question, we're going to go at the opposite end and start with you, Mr. Wilson. And so my question is, you mentioned the CARES money, and there's stimulus money, additional money, I guess called recovery plan that President Biden has put out. And now we have some funds coming into the state and to the cities and counties. Let's say that you have been giving a blessing of $1 million for Ward 4. If you had $1 million for Ward 4, how would you use that money and why?
You know, I'm going to go ahead and start and highlight an issue that I came across while canvassing on yesterday, or actually, you can say all week. And it's not because I was born and raised in the Queens. I met a 41-year-old or a resident in the Queens who's been a resident for 41 years in the Queens. And one of the primary issues that I hear from residents is water, crime, streets. Obviously, water, because of the recent water crisis that we are still somewhat going through, is fresh on everybody's mind. But infrastructure and applying that to having our pipes and our water system updated, it's a priority for most of our residents. That resident that I spoke with this week, every time it rains hard, he has sewer that comes up through his tub. He has met with the city council about this, and he has not heard back from anyone. Not his councilman, not the mayor. He took the time to type up a letter, went down to the council meeting, had pictures of all of this happening. He was showing it to me. He has done plumbing work on his side of the street. So the city can't say that it's pipes or old pipes on his side. This gentleman has spent over $1,600 with plumbing in his front yard to make sure that he has everything up to date on his side. there's a canal that runs behind his house that runs under Flag Chapel. That canal is full of debris, overgrown leaves. This gentleman gets in that canal and cuts those trees down himself, because if he didn't, his yard would be flooded every time it rains. I know that there are big issues with our streets as well, but when I hear stories like that, and when I hear the residents crying out to their elected officials and they basically fall on deaf ears, I think that infrastructure and kind of maybe coincide that with also attacking the areas or attacking streets that have been neglected for years. I'll add this before I go. I met another resident in Oak Creek. She says she's lived in Oak Creek for 30 years. Her street has never been paved. That's unacceptable. And so I would end on that. That $1 million would have to go to infrastructure. And then my number one platform, or my number one priority on my platform, is blight elimination. We have to clean our city up with dilapidated housing in both residential and commercial areas. I was on another street off Clinton Boulevard. There are 3 houses sitting right next to each other. The neighbors told me they've been burnt out for over 10 years. That's past negation.
Wilson, I'm not keeping up with the time, but that feels like over 2 minutes.
It did, and I'm going to mute myself right now.
Okay. So Willie might have been keeping up with it, but I'm going to get it started here.
Yeah,
so,
I apologize for that. I'm on the task.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so I think Ms. Smith, if you had $1 million for Ward 4, how would you spend that $1 million?
Well, I've already come up with a plan how I can spend $1 million. Before I started putting out signs, the first 3 weeks, I wrote every street in the ward. I can tell you where there's a need. I can tell you what every ordinance that the need falls into. And with that $1 million, I would start with infrastructure. We have a lot of roads, streets that have neglect in just day-to-day operations. When I say that we have manholes that don't have covers on them, which is a danger for children. That means we need to execute someone with money as a job to make sure that those are done on a daily basis. Safety barriers for creeks. If someone were to have an accident, they're falling over into the creek because there aren't any safety barriers. Children walking just from school, it rains. There's no safety barriers, but yet there's a creek there and they can fall going into the apartment complex. We have trees and power lines. We have so many dilapidated properties that need to be torn down. And a lot of that is because we're not pushing forward and making sure that those individuals that no longer have vested interests in Jackson make sure that our communities are solid. That $1 million can go to a lot of redevelopment. And most importantly, I would like to do monthly cleanup. So that's going to take us having money to put those bins in isolated places, to encourage people to place their items there instead of dumping them, because we have a lot of unnecessary dumping in our city, but we don't have any place allocated for them to dump. So of course they're going to find a street, but we can use money for those beautification projects. We can use money for beautification projects in our communities to encourage our students to do better as well. So I would use that $1 million to start with beautification and infrastructure.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And Ms. Porter.
Thank you for the $1 million. It seems like a lot of money, but we know that it's not. For a community that goes from Bel Air off of Northside Drive all the way down to McClure Road, it's not a lot of money, but this is an idea. So one of the things that I know that should continue to happen in the city of Jackson is for each ward to have the correct amount of money that's allocated for them from the 1% or whatever comes into the city. So that's what I would do with this $1 million. Thank you for it again, Dr. Quinn. So I would divide it up between the wards, between the neighborhoods. So you have a number of neighborhoods or areas that need different things. Everybody doesn't need the same thing at the same time. So I would identify what is needed in that area and you have a set amount of money because now it's divided up between each neighborhood. Each neighborhood, whatever is on their priority that money can take care of, it will. Now, if there's anything left over out of that 1 million in each neighborhood, then each neighborhood needs to look at creating, and this is one of the things that I want to do as your city council, is creating entrepreneur classes, of course, for those in the neighborhood, for children, young adults, families, the whole nine, in order for them to get their own business started in their own backyard. The same thing that I said earlier. So that extra that's left over out of that $1 million will go for that, as well as an incentive for keeping your own neighborhood clean. So if your civic club will have an incentive to do whatever they need to do in order to keep it clean, then they will make sure that each month, week, whatever, somebody's out there, because there's this grant that's out there to help you to meet any of the needs that you have for your particular area. So that's a quick $1 million spent really, really fast. Thank you.
Let me unmute here. Okay, Mr. Griselle.
Thank you. So $1 million for an entire ward is almost like the last $10 in my pocket. But we're going to spend it as best as we can. So one, I will put part of that money into public safety. We have the real-time command center. That is an absolute treasure for our city because virtual policing is the wave of the future. We already know that we have this shortage of police officers, but the virtual policing actually helps our police department as a whole to police better. They can see things that the human eye cannot see. And plus, you have this wealth of evidence that will exist because of the virtual policing. So I would actually expand that, putting more cameras and virtual capabilities into our neighborhoods. We have communities such as Belhaven and Thunder. They are already raising money to expand it into their communities. So I would definitely outfit most of Ward 4 with that technology. Two, I think I would use part of it to build a safe room. We do not have a safe room where people can go in case there's a water crisis or a storm and be safe, be reasonably safe. Safe rooms are pretty common in more rural areas, but we know there's a lot of land out in Southwest Jackson that a lot of community members can go to. We can have programs there, but more importantly, when there is a storm, that we can actually have people to gather there and to be safe until the coast is clear. That's how I would spend that $1 million.
Wait, Ms. Amos.
Yeah, you said $1 million, and all I thought about was my favorite song, my last $2, right? So that kind of, I know, right? Like that really isn't a lot, and they're all, it's not a lot of money, but it can be spent. So I was going to lead with the virtual policing, and the reason I was doing that is because it really does work. I'll say this: they actually can see. We've actually seen people like removing and destroying our signs because of the virtual policing cameras, right? Like you can see them. But we need more. Because of just folks being safe and things happening in neighborhoods and areas where most of the folks are elderly or retired. And so we need that extra protection. But $1 million, we won't be able to put a dent in infrastructure. So it would definitely need to go to the communities. I can see myself, I know me, I would focus on the youth and getting them involved and being able to get them paid to be involved and working in the different communities, whether it's blight removal and cleanup. Obviously, we would have to get, insurance policies, for certain things, but just the cleanup area, even here in my neighborhood, at least every 2 months, I go and I clean up an area that's by our fire station. For some reason, people drive down Clinton Boulevard and they just throw things, right? So we need to be able to, I would like to see street sweepers again. I don't know if you guys, some of y'all might not be old enough to remember that, but I do. I do. And we used to have street sweepers. There are a lot of things that we could bring back. I would like to see us have our Park and Recs program back during the summer, where the kids would come in the morning and be there in the afternoon, and they actually had a breakfast, a lunch. They had the games. They learned to crafts and those type things. So I could use it. I would be able to lay it out, but I would just have to prioritize because again, that is not a lot of money, but it's more than we have right now, right? So that's kind of how. And then one more thing. Someone mentioned something about the sewage, the raw sewage coming up. I would like to invest in a company that I've looked at, Service Line Warranty Program, and they are equipped and they work with about 650 cities to help us with that. So we could pay some insurance for some folks on that to get their pipelines done. So we can get it done.
Well, Regina, this has been a really responsive conversation from our candidates. They've really been wonderful in responding to the questions and being very specific about their platforms and what they would do and how they would use their experience to help us uplift the city of Jackson. So I want to say thank you at this time to all of our candidates who joined us tonight and was part of the conversation. Thanks, Regina, for moderating this portion of our conversation tonight. You did wonderful. And with just the couple minutes that we have left, each candidate, we're going to give you 1 minute to just wrap up and tell us and tell the voters why you want them to go to the polls on April 6th and vote for you as the a person for leading Ward 4. And we'll start with Mr. Wilson, Larry Wilson.
In conclusion, I'll start out by saying, just making a few contrasts between myself and some of the other candidates. So I am a homeowner in South Jackson. The current Ward 4 councilman is a homeowner in South Jackson. South Jackson does need to at least keep 2 councilmen on this council. And that is definitely something that most folks that live in South Jackson should keep in mind. Again, I'm the only candidate that has children in the Jackson Public School District. I will make decisions with someone who has a vested interest in this school district. And lastly, I'll tell you that I'm already managing other people's money, with the city council being responsible for managing the money for the city of Jackson and its residents. I'm already a trusted individual. As a coach at Northwest Middle School and the basketball coach of girls, parents trust me with their daughters. That is a tremendous responsibility, and I don't take it lightly, and I don't take it for granted. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Flechette Smith. Ms. Smith, you can unmute. Okay.
Yes, I was having some technical difficulties. I am running for this ward because I have lived in South Jackson in Oak Creek since 1986. I've lived the water crises. I've heard the plans for 10 years. Because I'm a product of the ward, I want to see change. I want to see change in the narrative. I want to see change in the mindset from wanting to believing, from settling to achieving the goals, and yet improving those things within the ward. I want to see changes in our environment and making people feel safe and spreading that knowledge to help them accomplish what they're trying to do as they come back and be proud citizens of our community and our ward. In order for me to accomplish these things, those committees that I said that I want to serve on, finance, planning, economic development, and education, I have to have a seat at the table. I want our community to mean family again. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to take Ward 4 back. We have to believe, we have to achieve, we have to change, and we have to give our people that knowledge they need to make those changes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Porter. And Mr. Grizel?
That was Ms. Smith.
Yes, you just heard
Ms. Smith. Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Karen Gale Porter?
Yes, thank you. And thanks again for this opportunity. What I would say to the citizens of Ward 4, when you vet all of the candidates, One of the things that I want you to remember about Karen Porter is that I am a person who looks at potential. And one of the things that I've noticed that with all of the candidates that are on here, each of us have the potential to do well, but only one of us can have the job. But it is very important that the other 6 of us work together even after April the 6th or after the runoff or whatever. Because if we have the passion to do this now, imagine what we could do if we work together. Let's not go our separate ways and say whatever we want to do and do it individually. Let's be collective and make more things happen with the group of us. So whoever wins on April the 6th or the runoff, let's work with them, and each of us should do that. And I hope that and pray that it's Karen Porter for Ward 4. God bless you. God keep you. May his light continue to shine upon you for this generation and for the generations to come. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Next is Mr. Grizzell.
All right, thank you. So real briefly, I am prepared for this role. I've been serving this community, Ward 4, representing this community in an official capacity for the past 7+ years. There won't be any need for on-the-job training. I already understand the processes. I have the relationships necessary to get things done, and I am prepared to lead the fight. And I think that you want someone who is experienced and who is ready to serve. I don't have any children. I don't have any children in the district, but I work with them, and I've worked at several schools, and I can tell you where they are. And they've reached out to me. I write letters of recommendation. I've sent them as far as Yale. I've sent them to Jackson State. I've sent them everywhere. So I am prepared. I am a stakeholder of this ward, and I am prepared to lead. Thank you.
Miss Jackie Amos.
Yes, ma'am. So, yes, I was born and raised here, grew up in Bel Air, married and moved here off Clinton Boulevard. So I'm dead center, just about, in this ward. I have been preparing for this position since I ran last time. I have been involved with the different communities that have continued to have infrastructural problems, crime, blight, those type things. I still continue to receive phone calls from folks that I met while I was campaigning back in 2009 for help. And so I was able to do that, point them in the right direction, get them with a council person. But more than anything, we have different neighborhoods in Ward 4, but one thing we have in common, right? We need to be safe. We want and we need basic necessities, water, schools, sustaining jobs. I am prepared for this. I have built those relationships and worked and built the trust of people, from contractors to elected officials, all the way to the White House, actually. So working here in the city of Jackson with the other council members and the administration, I am committed to making sure that Ward 4 is not left out, as we have been on several occasions, and making sure that the money is there and that we can create the money or get the money to take care of our ward. So, I mean, I have no children anymore. My children are grown. I'm a grandmother. I'm here, I'm available, and I'm ready to go.
Okay. Thank you all again so much for joining us tonight. Women for Progress Radio thanks you, and we wish you well during this campaign season and wish you safety while you're out there working to be leading the city of Jackson in Ward 4. Thank you so much, and good evening to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay, while our candidates back off our conversation and back out of the meeting, we'll bring our next guest on. And thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And Regina, I'm going to get our next guest into the room.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Wilson, and we're going to give our former guest just a minute to back out of the conversation.
Sure.
Okay. I think we got everybody out.
Almost.
Okay. All right. And I want to remind our guests that are listening in that you're tuned in to Women for Progress Radio Network. And tonight is our flagship program, the Women for Progress Radio Show. And we've been talking to some amazing candidates for Ward 4. My host tonight is Attorney Regina Quinn May, who has been fabulous tonight and such a great leader of our city also. So thank you so much for Regina for continuing the conversation with us tonight. Our next guest, I want to remind those who are listening, if you have any questions for our guest, please make sure we're monitoring the Facebook page. So if you have any comments or you have any questions for our guests, please make sure that you put them in the comments, and we'll try to get them asked tonight, or if we don't get them asked tonight, we'll respond to your questions later. But thank you so much for tuning in. We want you to take this time right now to share this program with all of your family and your friends, and make sure that they are listening in and get an opportunity to hear from my guest tonight. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Wilson to the program, and then I'm going to introduce him and tell our audience a little bit about who he is and share with them. Welcome to the program, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me.
All right. Mr. Wilson is a lifelong resident of Jackson, Mississippi, growing up in the Georgetown community. He attended Johnson Elementary, Brinkley Middle School, and graduated from the 833 Lanier High School. He is faithfully married to his wife, Shamira Littleton Wilson, of nearly 20 years, and father of their 2 daughters. Both are members of the New Jerusalem Christian Church. Kenneth acquired his associate's degree from Hines Community College, Bachelor of Business Administration, and the Master of Business Administration from Belhaven University. In his desire to continue his public service to Jackson citizens, he enrolled in the Jackson Fire Department Fire Training Academy. He served the citizens of Jackson as a firefighter and emergency medical technician for nearly a decade. Kenneth also served as the president of his local Parent-Teacher Association. He increased the student-to-computer ratio by acquiring resources from Jackson State University's computer recycling program during his leadership. Following his passion for teaching, Kenneth became a local college business instructor at Hines, becoming chair of that business department. Kenneth has worked in leadership roles for over a decade in nonprofit management. He currently serves as the vice president of A Better Tomorrow Foundation, which has positively impacted Jacksonians' lives by providing various services and resources. He currently serves as president of Ridgewood Park Homeowners Association in Northeast Jackson. He is a member of numerous community-based organizations, including the NAACP and Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Mr. Wilson remains focused on serving Jackson citizens' livelihood by positively impacting education, reducing youth crime through mentorship, creating employment opportunities, and providing essential services and resources through nonprofit management. Mr. Wilson, we want to get started because we only have a short time with you tonight, and we want to get this an opportunity to get to know you much, much better. Of course, from your resume, we see that you are definitely engrossed in the city of Jackson. You grew up here. You have raised your family here. You have built your business here. You have reached out to the educational community. So tell us what specific qualifications and experience qualifies you to be the mayor of the city of Jackson, our capital city, and one of the most historic urban cities in the state of Mississippi.
Sure. First, I want to thank you all for having me and wish you all a happy International Women's Month. You all have paved the way for many women, such as my wife and the future of my 2 beautiful daughters. But obviously I qualified as mayor based on the qualifications that it takes. But I think leadership is paramount. I've led in leadership roles. I've also worked within the city for nearly a decade. This city needs leadership, clearly. Education, I'm an educator. We know the pathway to prosperity is through the Jackson public school system. And as an educator, I'll be leading the way. Nonprofit management, clearly that plays a significant role with the city. And just being active in every role that it takes to understand this city and how it functions. I've been here my entire life, so I think I'm highly qualified to lead the way.
Wow. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Regina Quinn, who has some questions that's been shared from our membership and information that she wants to share.
Sure. Good evening again, Mr. Wilson, and thank you again for being a part of this show. People don't know a whole lot about you. You're new to the political arena, as we can determine anyway. I believe this is your first run for public office. What do you see as the critical issues for the city of Jackson? If you were to just name one, I know there are many, but if you were to name one, which one would that be, and how will you go about resolving or tackling that particular issue?
Well, I know it's several, but public safety right now and infrastructure are both leading the way. But I would say public safety right now is a significant issue in addition to infrastructure. So I would say I would move forward with infrastructure. We are in a water crisis, clearly. We have mothers who aren't able to make formula for their children. We have people paying thousands of dollars of water bills that's significant and that they don't owe. We have an infrastructure issue. We have a consent decree that we're not complying with. We're dumping raw sewage in the Pearl River and in my opinion, poisoning families downstream. So what I would do going about addressing that issue from the beginning is clearly hire a public works director. We have to do that first. Make sure we have someone that's in there that's ready to lead. Number two, we have to address the water billing issue. We are losing $2 million in debt each month because we're not collecting the water billing. We definitely need to partner, I think, with the state and federal agencies to get funding in here, something we haven't been able to do. And that's what I intend to do as mayor going forward.
Well, let me ask this, because this question has been kind of hit the local and national media in terms of some of the political issues going on. What do you think separates you from the current mayor in terms of some of those issues that have been obstacles, seemingly, in getting the support that we need from a state level? How will you be able to advance and knock down some of the barriers to get what I presume that you're stating that the current mayor is unable to get?
Well, sure. I think it starts with relationships. I think as the mayor, the first thing you have to do is develop a rapport with the governor and also the city council and the Hines County Board of Supervisors. They play an essential role in getting funding. We don't necessarily have to agree on anything or abandon our principles, but we have to have a rapport with them because this is the city of Jackson. And there is no way for us to fund the significant issue with infrastructure without the support from all of those entities. So that is how I differ. I think that we can put our politics aside because we're in a crisis. Leaders have to put that aside when you have people that don't have access to clean water. We just went almost an entire month without water. Right now, between Highway 18 and Raymond Road, I believe I was told yesterday, there are still some businesses who do not have access to water. So we're going to put politics aside and address the issue at hand. We are in a crisis.
Okay, and I just want to ask this particular question, and I know the issue of the airport came up. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would assume you're not agreeing that the city of Jackson should give up this airport to be able to get support from the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think that we can develop a relationship at a state level where we can get the assistance that we need to address the issues, and the airport is not one of those options.
And I'd love the questions.
Glad you answer that.
Regina.
Willie, you're on mute.
Okay. I want to take a moment here to our membership, Women for Progress membership, has provided some amazing questions, thought-provoking questions and impactful ones. So we want to share a couple of them here. One, a member emailed us, working mothers in Jackson often face barriers that impact their ability to work and care for their families. These barriers include transportation, access to quality education for themselves and their children, and affordable places to live. What policies and practices can be implemented at the local level to address these barriers that are unique to working mothers?
Sure. I understand it because my mom was one of those mothers. So as an educator, I think we need to partner with the local colleges in reference to education. I think there's grant funding for single mothers. There's a lot of opportunities out there for those who can't afford an education based on their economic status. When it comes to affordable housing, the city of Jackson, under Mayor Yarva, has a Neighbor First program in which I talk about often. And that what it does, it gives access to properties that can be rehabilitated and offered to those single mothers. I think that's a great way to start a tax base. I think that's a great way to offer that for mothers who are paying these excessive rent prices, who may or may not have the credit eligibility to afford homes. And that's what I intend to do as mayor.
And one of the other major concerns of our membership, many questions came through. They want to hear the plans around workforce development. If you are selected as mayor and or elected as mayor, what is your plan for workforce development? Because many feel that higher paying jobs is the answer to many of these issues that we have here in the city of Jackson.
Right. Well, I've worked on workforce development as an educator. One of the things that I intend to implement through our school board and work with Jackson Public Schools is to bring more, skill-based programs back to Jackson Public Schools. I think with the students, a lot of students aren't into the 4 to 6 years and 8 years anymore like they was years prior. We need to give them an option to get prepared with skills. I think we need to bring industries into this city to incentivize them to hire those students that we're preparing, to make sure we have a curriculum centered around the type of demand that they're going to need. So as mayor, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to forward that agenda. I have worked on the Reskill Mississippi initiative in helping those impacted by COVID-19 to get rehired and trained for the workforce. And I'm going to use that knowledge and bring it to the city of Jackson to not only help our students, but also help those in the community who don't have access to that knowledge.
Mr. Wilson, what would you do to help minority businesses in the city of Jackson have more participation with City of Jackson contracts? We have a good population here of businesses that are, certainly eager and able to participate. What is your stance on that kind of a program for minority and small and local businesses?
Sure. My wife is a business owner. I think that it's unacceptable that we have about 85 to 90% African Americans in Jackson, and we're only participating in about under 10% of the contract. Mayor Harvey Johnston had the EBO program that was very successful years prior. I think it has been abolished currently, and as mayor, I'm going to re-implement that program. We look at minorities and the participation in those contracts is significantly low. But some would say double minorities. Women minorities really don't have an opportunity. They have the capacity, they have the capital, and they're overwhelmingly competent. And I intend to give them those opportunities when I become mayor.
Well, I think clearly that's certainly essential for the growth of the city. Now, in terms of being able to garner the support of people that are regional within the city of Jackson, and when you're dealing with infrastructure, particularly with the water and sewer issues, what's your thoughts about water and sewer and how to tackle the massive problems? Because I believe the mayor is saying that we have about a $2 billion problem. We can't tax our way out of it. And it doesn't look like we're going to get enough stimulus money to address the real critical needs that we have. So what's your thoughts about being able to do what's necessary to get a system, water treatment facility and water distribution system that meets the needs of citizens of Jackson?
I think the first thing we have to do is collect the funds that are outstanding. Over the last 4 years, we've accumulated probably about $50 million in funds that haven't been collected. We have businesses that are not paying. And they're willing to pay, but they don't have access to, an accurate water bill, or they don't have the meters that they need. I think there has to be regional partnership. This is the capital city, as I stated prior, and we can't tax enough to address the issue that's plaguing the city. But as mayor, we're going to put together a comprehensive plan that's data-driven. And we're not just going to pave streets because we have to tear them right back up once it gets too hot outside or it freezes. We're going to make sure we have to address the infrastructure beneath the pavement and make sure we're doing it in 4 phases. And also leave a plan for the next administration coming behind us in partnership with the state, and also having access to multiple programs that are available right now through federal resources. Grants, not loans, because we have to repay those. We don't want to overload ourselves with bonds and loans. We need grants that we don't have to repay, that we allocate those resources to addressing this ongoing infrastructure issue.
What do you see what is your vision for the city of Jackson? What type of city would you like to see Jackson become?
Yes, I would love to see Jackson become a safer city, where our elders aren't afraid to go out after dark, where our police officers love working for this city, where they don't have to stay outside of a city that they are afraid to live in, that they're supposed to be policing. I would like to see a zoo where the traffic is 2 miles long trying to get into our zoo. I want a high demand for homes in this city where our education system is a pathway to prosperity, and we clean these streets up and we make this a more clean city.
And so in doing that, of course, all that it would be wonderful to have. And of course, all these things take, as you said, leadership and money and those things. But when I speak of vision, what do you see as being the opportunity for Jackson to grow its economic base in order to be able to attract those kinds of venues and to have them sustainable? So when you put the money in, you're getting the return on your investment. How does Jackson grow itself from an economic development standpoint? What is your vision for Jackson to make that happen?
I think we need to offer incentives for businesses to come and ensure that they're going to hire a percentage of their workforce from the city of Jackson. In addition to making sure that we have the educational system at the table, Jackson Public Schools and those 5 colleges that are here. That is essential. If they know that they have a workforce when they establish, and they're also going to be compensated for coming into this city, they're more likely to come. We also have to, and give them the basic necessities, public safety, infrastructure. If you don't have access to water, you don't want to build a building on the Industrial Drive or Highway 18. I think those areas are prime for new development. And as mayor, those are areas that I'm going to be marketing outside of this state for businesses to come in. I think Congressman Thompson did a great thing in his area where he was giving $2,000 incentives to business who were hired, employees from that region. I want to use any mechanism possible to entice businesses not only come here, but to stay here. We are I call the diabetic capital in the United States. We do not produce anything for diabetics in the city of Jackson or the state of Mississippi. I look to bring some of those opportunities here on the Industrial Drive so we can create. There's a demand, but we also need to bring some industries here for that.
You mentioned that, and that reminds me of the Mississippi Health Corridor that from I-55 down Woodrow Wilson to 220. So I guess you're speaking of that in terms of since, unfortunately, Mississippi is known to be have the health care issues that we have. We're not in the best of health. With some of the health disparities that we have, it just seems that healthcare industry is one that Jackson, Mississippi should be leading the charge in, particularly when we're dealing with diabetes and heart disease and things that are problematic for many of our people. So are you saying that you're looking in terms of identifying some of those healthcare providers that can possibly be brought into the city of Jackson through these types of initiatives?
That is correct. I think that is what we are looking at. I think there's a lot of growth opportunities there. I think in addition, we also look to partner with UMC, who's our largest employer in this city, and Hines and those medical schools that would also help us retain some of the workforce because they're leaving the city and the state at a high rate. So that's what we look to do.
Okay. Well, the other area, I guess, is Farish Street has been talked about for years and years and years. What's your thoughts about that? Do you plan to try to do something with some of these locations, venues, Farish Street and those types of things? Do you see that as a priority for
Definitely.
you and the administration?
Definitely. I think fair screening downtown is a priority. I think we need to increase more foot traffic. We are, constructing a plan now to increase the foot traffic between ages 18 and 50 years of age. We need more younger people moving downtown to entice new businesses to come downtown. We need grocery stores. We need those type of things to make it a downtown atmosphere. And most importantly, keep it clean. That is an issue. A lot of responses we've got in our email about what are we going to do about cleaning downtown up. So I think there are a lot of growth opportunities, but it's going to involve everyone at the table, these industries, in addition to our educators, because they're going to play a significant role in having them here.
Okay. All right. Well, Jackson is one of those cities, and you know that from being here and looking across the landscape here, we know we have a lot of potential, but we know certainly there's certainly a lot of work that needs to be done. Code enforcement is one that I've been hearing for years and years and years about what's happening with code enforcement. Do you plan to change the way that works, that operates? How do you see it as an area that, what your thoughts about in your plans for code enforcement for the city of Jackson?
Yeah, as a homeowners association president, I've been dealing with code enforcement for quite some time, trying to make sure everyone is in compliance, whether it's anything, even the businesses around our community. I have been actively involved in making sure that they are in compliance and we support them. But I think there are a lot of eyesores in this city that shouldn't be in this city. And after talking to a lot of investors over the last few weeks, they are highly concerned. They can't receive a return on their investment if there's blighted property across the street, or if there's an abandoned property, or there's drug activity, or a burned structure that was supposed to be, bulldozed after 6 months or 90 days. So as mayor, we're going to implement a comprehensive plan to make sure code enforcement is in full effect, that we're going to try to at least have 2 code enforcement officers for each ward. Right now, as I was told prior, that we were severely understaffed in that area. I look to also use our fire marshal's office to also participate while we're short-staffed right now. But we want to make sure we're utilizing the resources we have to address the issue that an immediate impact, and then going forward, make sure we have the men and women trained to fix that issue, because if not, we're going to continue to spiral down when it comes to eyesores.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Wilson, this has been an informative conversation. Thank you so much, Attorney Regina Quinn May, for being our moderator tonight. Thank you so much for what you provide and the service you not only provide to Women for Progress in Mississippi, but for the city of Jackson. And Mr. Wilson, thank you so much for giving us this time tonight to answer our questions and be part of the Women for Progress Radio Network conversation. We wish you safety during this campaign season, and we're going to wrap up our conversation by giving you, I think we have about 2 minutes where you can tell voters why they need to go to the polls, or why they should go to the polls on April 6th and vote for you as the mayor of the city of Jackson.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you all for having me. I wish you all another happy International Women's Month. Thank you all for paving the way for the women, and also for my daughters in the future. We are in a public safety crisis in this city. Just yesterday, we had another woman killed in this city. Women have been targeted in this city consistently. We are in a water crisis in this city. We have a health crisis in this city. We have a consent decree that we're not paying. In my opinion, we have an educational crisis, because we have a school system that is not providing the best education for our students. If you want to change these issues, if you are tired of paying more and getting less for a convention center, for taxes on water tax, for a school bond where we have 8 schools closed, if you want to change, if you want a servant leader, then on April the 6th, vote for Ken Wilson. Vote for a better Jackson. Thank you all for having me. God bless you all.
Well, good evening. Thanks again to all the candidates for Ward 4 who was part of the conversation tonight. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thanks for all of those of you who have tuned in through Facebook and given your comments and been part of this discussion tonight. Join us every Thursday at 5:30 every week for this particular conversation with Women for Progress Radio. Have a good evening and a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you.